everyone, welcome back to my channel. As you can see, I'm in the same outfit as the last video, but that's totally fine. So today's video, I wanted to talk to y'all about how I made 6 figures as a social media manager in Los Angeles, because it is kind of a new industry and people aren't really talking about it, and there's so much I can share. Before I get started, I wanted to apologize for the windy day outside. Sorry if you can hear that. Also, I will be teaching a class on social media and how to be a social media manager with a little bit about being an influencer as well. It will be a paid course. It'll probably be about $10, so if you want to join, just drop your email down below, or you can send it to me in a DM on my Instagram at @meetjessicamarie if you do not feel comfortable dropping it down below in a comment. Then I can email you when I release my course. It'll be going over how I create content, influencer strategy, how to recruit influencers, negotiate with them, pricing, things like that. Just the whole 9 yards, and especially how to get a job as a social media manager. But without further ado, let me get started. A lot of people wonder how I got started. I do not have a degree in social media. I don't think that exists. I don't have a marketing degree or anything like that. What had happened was my fiance and I had to move back in with my parents after college because I got severely sick. As I'm sure some of y'all know if you've been around on my channel for a while, I had very severe eczema and I couldn't hold a full-time job because I couldn't wear proper clothing, because I couldn't wear tight clothing. I would have to wear like what boys wear, like basketball shorts and stuff like that, which is not appropriate in an office setting. Since I was home all the time because I was sick, I just kind of played on my computer. I downloaded Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator. I taught myself how to design an infographic resume, which I highly recommend doing. So many people made fun of me for doing it back then, and now I think Elon Musk was talking about it, or I can't remember who. There's an interview, I'll drop it down below if I can find it. There's an interview where they talk about how important it is to have an infographic resume, and I think that's hilarious. Shout out to all of you who made fun of my infographic resume when I first made it, because it took me forever to make that thing. But I taught myself also how to do video editing on Final Cut Pro, which I highly recommend doing if you are interested in being a social media manager. The more skills... Did y'all hear that? The more skills you have as a social media manager, the higher you will be getting paid and the more opportunities you will have. As far as my skill set, it's across the board: video editing, video production, photography, retouching, graphic design, strategy, influencer marketing, just pretty much everything you can think of. So I just kind of dabble in it all. And that's how I first got my first social media manager job. I moved to Los Angeles. I did not have the intention of becoming a social media manager, but when I moved here, I was looking at different jobs and I got hired by a company by the name of Lenny and Larry's. I worked there full time for about 6 months and I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot from my boss there, the head of marketing. He is amazing. He used to work at Sony and he's just a genius. So I'm so grateful that I had that experience working there for him. I ended up leaving that company because one of their competitors offered me double and I couldn't say no because Los Angeles is expensive and I did have an issue at Lenny and Larry, so I was like, okay, yeah, I'll take this job. There are some pros and cons to working full-time and working freelance. Freelance, obviously, you get to make your own hours, you get to work from home, you can bring on multiple clients. Full-time, it's a bit different because you're working full-time, and the cons are it's a newer industry, so a lot of the CEOs and bosses think it happens overnight. They want immediate results, and that's just not the way it works. You cannot bring an audience onto an account that hasn't built good content, so they think that the followers are going to come right away when really the content needs to be built so you have a good page when the viewers come to it, and then you start building the audience, which is very frustrating. You will run into that a lot when you are full-time unless you have someone who understands, like a media company. I know I was talking to a company by the name of Clever. It's like Clever, it's like a YouTube channel, and they were really understanding about the modern day thing. If you have a company that is very old school in their marketing ways and they aren't open to being new and modern, but they want a social media presence, that's where you will find the most trouble. Finding a full-time social media management job is pretty easy in Los Angeles, as well as other big cities like Dallas, Austin, San Francisco. Bigger cities in general, you can find a lot of freelance in smaller towns. You just have to hunt for it a little bit more. If you have a good resume and you're really good at what you do, I highly recommend submitting to a creative agency. They can get you 6-figure jobs like nothing. You can make $40 an hour. That's pretty easy to find. You can make a huge salary full-time. They have remote options as well. They just have a ton of options across the board. How I found a lot of my freelance clients whenever I did go freelance is actually through Craigslist. I know in certain cities Craigslist is a cliche and it can be really sketchy, but in Los Angeles there are a ton of great opportunities on Craigslist and I highly recommend looking there. I would even submit myself to jobs in San Francisco or other big cities because a huge problem in the industry right now is there is a lack of talented social media managers that actually know what they're doing. I know this because I was going to hire someone under me once and it is literally impossible to find someone that can do it. That's why I'm telling y'all, someone start learning social media or come to my class online that I will be teaching very soon and you can learn and make 6 figures and not have a college education as long as you know what you're doing, you're creative. It's very important to be creative. Speaking of creativity, one of my all-time favorite accounts to follow is Halo Top Creamery. It's like an ice cream account on Instagram, and they are so inspiring. I love their content. We did get to work with them a lot when I was at Lenny and Larry's, and I really, really like the way they do things. It's very high-quality content. I'll add some photos of the kind of content I have created. Whenever I submit to a potential client, I submit my infographic resume as well as a sample of created content. I'll add my sample somewhere here, and people really appreciate that, especially if they don't ask for it. I also have a case study right here, which shows, basically shows the growth I had at Lenny and Larry's, and then once I left, the decline that happened when I was no longer their social media manager, which shows a brand that I can peak the engagement and audience and things like that. I do recommend making one of these. Not many brands ask for it, but it is really nice, especially when people are really into the numbers side of things. If you are brand new at this and you want to create content and you don't know how to submit to people, just be honest, say you're new, but you have been doing freelance work, and basically create content. Grab something, a water bottle, maybe a sunscreen bottle, get your camera and take a photo of it. And just kind of mess around and learn design, learn the 3/4 rule, how you want to have the image in a third of the section. You'll see that a lot in some of my content, or you can have it straight on. There's different ways to design things and set things up, and that's one of my favorite aspects of social media. In terms of props and things like that, I highly recommend a poster board, like a foam board. If you go to Hobby Lobby, you can find them in various colors. You can also paint your own. And then I also go to Lowe's or Home Depot and I get slabs of marble and different tiles and wood. So if you see photos like these, they are all done on my bedroom floor with a slab of tile laid out, and I just edit them really well.
I think it's really important to learn from others, so I wanted to show y'all a couple of different examples of where you can learn to improve. Some of these examples, you can see the lighting is really off. There's different shadows that needed to be edited out. There are also some examples here of how to pay attention to how you lay out the image. Like, you never want to take photos over glitter or anything like that because it doesn't come out sparkly. You never want to take photos over carpet, and be careful to not make it look cheesy or anything like that.
In terms of how much to charge people, it really depends. If you're in a small town, you might be charging $300 to $500 a month. If you're in Los Angeles, for one client, I would charge between $3,000 and $6,000 a month to run an account. It's pretty common for a bigger city. It just kind of depends on how much work you've done, how new you are at this, and what you can show them. People really want to see numbers, so be sure that you do have growth that you can show once you get the ball rolling, especially if you are looking to get into a creative agency to get jobs through, because they want the facts and they don't mess around at the creative agencies. In terms of my day-to-day life, whenever it is full-time, of course I am in the office, and it is a bit frustrating to be a full-time social media manager because you are only working for one company, which has its pros and cons because you are dedicated to that company. In my opinion, the Instagram is like my child, and Facebook and whatever they're having you run, it is like my child whenever I do run someone else's account. But whenever you are freelance, you have the capabilities of running multiple accounts and making more money that way. I recommend not running more than 5 accounts at one time. That can get a little bit out of control. I prefer to keep it at 3 accounts because I also have my own account that I'm running as well. As far as my day-to-day life, whenever I am working remote or working freelance, I just kind of make it up as I go. I do have an office space that I do rent for myself, and I like to go there to do my video editing and retouching, but I do majority of the photography at my house. Unless they want something active or outdoors, then I'll go to the park or just find a random place. I think it's pretty funny looking at content and realizing how I took those photos. Majority of the time my content is shot on my bedroom floor, and it's really easy to work with a company that just has a product that they want you to shoot, because they can just send you the product in all of the flavors, like if it's a snack company, all of the flavors, and you can just do photography that way. The hardest type of accounts to run are like interior design or cars or something like that, because then you have to go somewhere all the time to take the photos, unless a company is sending you like stock photos or something like that. As far as strategy works, I will be covering that more in depth in my course, but everything comes into play between the demographic, the times to post, and things like that. If there's anything I learned while I was at Lenny & Larry's, is how incredibly important your demographic is. It's kind of funny, as an influencer, some brands will have me post a product for them and they'll say, post it at this time. And that is the worst strategy ever, because they don't know my demographic. I do, so I know the best times to post. So as a brand, you should never tell an influencer when to post, unless you have a certain campaign like a giveaway or something very specific. Then you should give them a time gap to post. That is something very frustrating whenever you're collaborating with other brands. If you're working for a brand and you're trying to do like a collaborative giveaway, it is going to be frustrating because there are so many not well-trained social media managers out there that do not know strategy. So if you do know strategy, do not be afraid to tell them this is the better way because A, B, C, D. I ran into that a ton as a social media manager. They would just be wanting to do these random ideas off the wall, doing a giveaway with 13 steps to enter, and that's just not going to get good engagement. You need less steps if you're going to do a giveaway, and you need less products. So many people, I remember when I was at Lenny & Larry's, this one company wanted to get together all of these people to do a giveaway, and it ended up being like 8 brands, which is ridiculous, because whenever you're posting the giveaway, you're going to ask people to follow you, and who wants to follow 8 accounts at once? Me personally, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. But for a lot of people that aren't in the industry, that use it as a personal means, they're not going to want to follow these 9, 8 random accounts. That's just not going to happen. So if you do giveaways and things like that, there are certain strategies, like to do 3 brands maximum, because it can get out of hand if you don't. So just beware of other social media managers and the CEOs of your company, because the higher ups sometimes don't understand the way social media works, and that's why us millennials and the younger generation can kind of tell them how to do it. This is a huge opportunity and a little gap in the system to be able to make 6 figures and to not have a college education, as long as you're willing to grind. One last thing to note is sometimes as a social media manager, you might not cover everything. An example, if you're an introvert, you won't have to cover the extroverted things such as community management and kind of doing the customer service related questions that you will receive on the accounts, which I really enjoy when they do have a community manager, because it makes your life a little bit more easy. Sometimes they will have a content creator, so you won't have to create content. You'll just have to do the strategy and the posting and things like that. And sometimes they will also have an influencer outreach person or interns, which are really great because they can kind of do stuff like the random stuff that you don't really want to do. But it just kind of depends. Social media is growing hugely right now, and so there are a ton of avenues for you to jump into it. I know right now the cannabis industry in Los Angeles is really, really looking for social media managers. I personally am not interested in that industry, so I do not want to do that, but I have been offered several jobs in that industry, so that is one of the best things about social media. Whatever you're into, you can find a market for. If you like beauty, skincare, clothing, electronics, whatever you like, someone needs a social media manager somewhere, which is wonderful. I know this is a little bit scatterbrained. I'm sorry about that, guys, but if you have any questions, feel free to drop them down in a comment below or send me a DM at Meet Jessica Marie on my Instagram. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.